All rise. Let's have the jury, please. Be seated. The government can call its next witness. Thank you, Your Honor. The government calls Juan Carlos Ramirez Abadia. Please stand and raise your right hand. Please state and spell your name for the record. JUANCARLOS RAMIREZ ABADIA. You may be seated. May I inquire? Go ahead. Juan Carlos Ramirez Abadia, called by the government, having been duly sworn, was examined and testified as follows. Good afternoon, Mr. Ramirez. Good afternoon. How old are you? 55 years old. Where were you born? In Colombia, Palmira. Where did you grow up? In Cali, Colombia. Where do you live now? In the United States. In what type of facility? In a BOP prison. How long have you been in prison? 11.5 years approximately. When were you arrested? In August of 2007. Where were you arrested? In Brazil, Sao Paulo. Is this the only time that you have been in jail, Mr. Ramirez? No. When else were you in jail? I was in jail in Colombia and also in Brazil waiting for my extradition to the United States. What years were you in jail in Colombia? The first time I was in jail was in 1988 approximately, and again in 1996. In 1996, how long did you spend in jail in Colombia? 4 years and 2 months approximately. At the time of your arrest in Brazil in 2007, what did you do for a living? I was a fugitive, a Chapo, who was conducting my business, my drug business from Brazil. You used the term Chapo. What does that mean? That I was the leader of a cartel of the Colombian mafia that went by the name Cartel Norte del Valle, North Valle Cartel. What was the business of the North Valle Cartel? Drug trafficking business. What kind of drugs did the North Valle Cartel deal in? We dealt with cocaine at that time. Where did you send the cocaine to? We used to send the cocaine to the United States via Mexico. How long were you a drug trafficker? 20 years approximately. When did you start sending cocaine to the United States? 1989 approximately. Where did you sell the majority of your cocaine in the United States? In the city of New York. From the late 1980s until your arrest in 2007, approximately how many kilos of cocaine did you transport to the United States? 400,000 kilos of cocaine approximately. Now, Mr. Ramirez, you just testified that the cocaine that you sold would come to the United States via Mexico. What would happen to your drugs once it got to Mexico? Can you repeat the question, please? Is it on the screen on the real time? Is there an issue with the real time? Sorry, Your Honor. Let me repeat the question. From the late 1980s until your arrest in 2007, approximately how many kilos? I'm sorry, that's not where I was. When the drugs that you sold to the United States arrived in Mexico, what would happen to your drugs in Mexico? They were delivered to the Mexican drug traffickers, especially to those from the Sinaloa cartel, and then they moved them to the United States where they delivered them to me. You mentioned that your drugs were transported from Mexico to the United States by Mexican traffickers. Was the Sinaloa cartel the only cartel you worked with? No. What was the primary group that you worked with in Mexico? The Sinaloa cartel. Did you know the Sinaloa cartel by any other names? Yes. What other names? The Federation, La Federación, the Federation. Can you tell the members of the jury who specifically you worked with in the Sinaloa cartel? Yes, Mr. Guzman Loera, his brother Arturo, the Beltran Leiva brothers, the Carrillo Fuentes brothers, Mr. Nacho Coronel, Mr. Mayo Zambada, and his brother Ray Zambada, and Güero Palma. Did you meet Mr. Guzman Loera personally? Yes. Approximately how many times? Over 10 times. Do you see Mr. Guzman Loera in the courtroom? Yes. Can you describe an article of clothing that he is wearing? Yes, he is wearing a blazer and a light blue shirt. Your Honor, the government would ask the court record to reflect the witness has identified the defendant. It so reflects. What specifically did the defendant do with your cocaine? To receive it from me in Mexico, and then it would be transported to the United States. When did the defendant first start transporting your cocaine from Mexico to the United States? 1990 approximately. When was the last time you sent cocaine to the defendant? Back in 2007, before my arrest. Mr. Ramirez, while you were in Brazil, did you do anything to avoid being captured? Yes. What did you do? I had changes done to my face. What changes did you have done to your face? I altered the physical appearance of my face by changing my jawbone, my cheekbones, my eyes, my mouth, my ears, my nose. How many surgeries did you have to alter your appearance? More than 3 or 4 surgeries. I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification, I believe without objection, Government Exhibit 85-A. No objection. It is received. Who is this a photo of? Mine. Approximately when was this taken? More or less 1998 approximately. Showing you what has been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 85-C, also without objection. Received. Who is that a picture of? Mine. And when was this photo taken? When I was arrested in Brazil. And what year was that? 2007. And this was taken after your surgeries? Correct. Mr. Ramirez, are you known by any nicknames? Yes. What nickname is that? Chupeta. Mr. Ramirez, when you were arrested in Brazil, how many countries were seeking your extradition? Just one country, the United States. How many cases did you have against you in the United States at the time of your arrest in Brazil? 2 cases. Where were those 2 cases? One in Washington, D.C., and the other one in the court in Brooklyn. This courtroom? Yes, the Eastern District of New York. Mr. Ramirez, did you plead guilty to both of those indictments? Yes. Where did you plead guilty to those 2 indictments? In the Eastern District of New York. What were you charged with as part of your Washington, D.C. indictment? Under the RICO law. What is your understanding of what the RICO law is, or what were you charged with? To be the leader of a cartel that was doing drug trafficking, cocaine. What crime were you charged with as part of the indictment? Drug trafficking, money laundering, and corruption. What criminal organization specifically were you charged with being a leader of? Norte del Valle, the North Valle cartel. What were the charges against you in the Eastern District of New York indictment? CCE. Could you describe your understanding of a CCE? A continuous criminal enterprise of which I was a leader. Do you understand CCE to mean continuing criminal enterprise? Yes. What were the violations of the CCE in the Eastern District of New York indictment? Murder and drug trafficking. Under the law, what is the maximum sentence that you can receive as a result of your guilty plea in both indictments? Life. And under the law, what is the minimum sentence you can receive as a result of your guilty plea? 20 years. And as a result of your drug trafficking activities, did the government of Colombia seize anything from you? Correct. What was the approximate total value of the assets seized by the Colombian government? $1 billion. Did you agree to forfeit anything to the United States? Correct. What did you agree to pay? To pay an additional amount of $1.2 million. Mr. Ramirez, have you been sentenced yet? No. Are you testifying today under an agreement with the government? Correct. What is that agreement called? A cooperation agreement. What is your understanding of your responsibilities under the cooperation agreement? To tell the absolute truth to the government, to cooperate with the government in whatever they need me, and not to commit any further crimes. If you fulfill all your obligations under the cooperation agreement, what is your understanding of what the judge What the government will do, sorry. They will write to the judge a 5K letter. What is your understanding of what a 5K letter is? It's a letter which is written by the Attorney General's office describing my bad acts and my cooperation. Who receives that letter if one is written? The judge. What is your understanding of what the 5K letter will allow the judge to do at sentencing? To move away from the maximum sentence that I could receive in accordance to the extradition treaty with Brazil. You mentioned the extradition treaty. Were any conditions placed by the Brazilian government when you were extradited to the United States? Yes. What was that? That I could not be sentenced to over 30 years. According to the cooperation agreement you have with the government, what is the minimum sentence you can get even after cooperation? 25 years. So the maximum reduction you can get is 5 years? Correct. And if the judge does receive a 5K letter, does the judge have to give you the 25-year sentence? It is up to the judge. It is the judge's decision. Per the terms of the cooperation agreement, can the judge go below 25 years? No. And who decides your sentence? The judge does. In addition to the terms of your cooperation agreement, has anything else been promised to you? Yes. What other promises have been made to you? I was promised to be given protection in prison, also to recommend protection for me once my sentence is over, and protection for my family. I'd like to show to the witness what has been marked as Government Exhibit 3500-JCRA-4 without objection from the defense. Received. Your Honor, no objection. Can we have a sidebar? Is this about hearing the witness better? It is about the witness, yes. Brief sidebar. Your Honor, this is not regarding the direct. He is Mr. Pereira's witness. It appears that the witness is making a concerted effort to hide. Mr. Guzman cannot see him at all, and I think he has a right to be confronted by the person. There's a lot of things in the way. There's a screen. He's tucked into the corner. He can't see him at all. Okay. So I will ask him to please adjust his seat and move forward. Thank you, Judge. Whatever you can accommodate. We would ask that be done outside the presence of the jury so there is no implication. I know the witness is answering me. Are we going to excuse the jury while we do this? Your Honor, I could possibly ask the witness to get closer to the interpreter. That's fine. Thank you. Mr. Ramirez, could I ask you to just get a little bit closer to the interpreter, please? Yes. Thank you very much. Before the sidebar, I was about to show you what's now in evidence, Government Exhibit 3500-JCRA-4. Do you recognize this document? Yes. I'd like to show you the last page. Correct. Is that your signature on the last page? Yes. What is this document? That's the cooperation agreement. What happened to your Washington, D.C. case? It was joined with the Eastern District case. As part of your cooperation with the United States government, are you required to meet with the government? Correct. When was the first time you met with the government? 2008 approximately. In the last 10 years, approximately how many times have you met with the government? More than 50 times. Have you met with the government to prepare your testimony today? Yes. Did you meet with the government to prepare to testify in any other trials? Yes. Did you testify in that other case? No. Did you meet with the government to sign affidavits in support of extradition? Yes. Mr. Ramirez, does you receiving a 5K depend on the conviction of anyone? No. I'd like to turn to the North Via cartel that you mentioned earlier on. I'd like to show you for identification Government Exhibit 506-22. No objection. All right, it is received. Mr. Ramirez, what is this? A map of Colombia. Now, what is the North Via cartel? It's a criminal enterprise that conducted drug trafficking and exported cocaine to the United States. With your finger, if you could mark on the screen next to where the North Via cartel was located. Approximately here. What state is that in? the Cuaca Valley. Did you have a structure in your organization? Yes. Have you heard of the term front? Front? Frente? Yes. What is a front? A front is a part of the organization that is dedicated to the illegal part of the business. As a leader of the North Valle cartel, how many fronts did you have in your organization? 5 fronts. Can you tell the members of the jury what those 5 fronts were? Yes, the armed branch, the political corruption and police corruption, the ledger, general ledger or the dirty money, the front that did the investments and the money laundering, and the operations front that did the cocaine shipments. I'd like to go through a couple of those fronts with the jury, please. You mentioned a general ledger front? Correct. What was the purpose of that front? It handled all the dirty money of the organization. For what purpose? For the cocaine shipments, for the corruption payments to the politicians and the police, and the acts of violence. You said you had a front that was dedicated to corruption. Can you briefly describe what that was? Correct. So the corruption one was one that we used in order to have the officers from the Colombian government not do their job, and that way it would benefit our illegal drug trafficking organizations, or activities rather. I'm sorry, I think there was a problem with the microphone. Based on your experience as the boss of a cartel, why was it important to have a corruption front? Because it's impossible to be the leader of a drug trafficking cartel in Colombia without having that corruption. They go hand in hand. You mentioned also that you had an armed wing? Correct. What was the purpose of that? The purpose was to protect my organization, to protect the safety and the life of my family, to protect the cocaine loads, to eliminate enemies, informants, thieves, and in that manner protect the cocaine business. What was the name of the people that worked in the armed front? Hitmen, sicarios. Did you participate in any violence, Mr. Ramirez? Yes. While you were leader of the North Valle cartel and your involvement throughout the North Valle cartel, how many people were killed as a result of orders that you gave? Approximately 150 people. What period of time did this occur? From approximately 1989 to 2007. Did you ever personally kill anyone? Yes. When was this? In 2004. How did you kill this person? With gunshots in his head, in the head. Interpreter correction, the head and the face. Did you shoot this person? Yes, I shot the person with a gun. Of the total number of people you ordered murdered, were any of them in the United States? Yes. Did you plead guilty to those murders? Yes.